of 3D or stereo photographs on the if you click on it, there are on our website there. You need red and green glasses to look at it, and these are maybe 60 images I've chosen out of over 4,000 at the University of Arizona, where they took these images taken on the surface of Mars and also in orbit around Mars to let you look at various types of structures. And if you look at these with 3D glasses, you can see the craters, you can see mounds that form, you can see small spherical structures spread all over an area. And one area in there inside of a volcanic cone had regular rectangular lines forming like a grid like a city would have. Now, that may be a very unusual formation caused by the winds of Mars blowing dust into that crater from different directions and creating that. But I'll have to tell you, when I looked at it, I thought, whoa, maybe this was a sign of civilization. So I haven't given up on there being life there. I don't know how to explain it to, except maybe when Jesus mentioned he had sheep in other pastures, that maybe it meant other planets. I don't know. But
or maybe there had been life there at some point, and
the earth had become waste and void, and Satan may have done something even before the Garden of Eden that God was displeased with, and it may have had to do with people living here or on Mars or elsewhere. I don't know.
Right. And I guess that's why a lot of people talk about the planet Rahab so much. They believe that would be similar in a lot of ways, that Satan had something to do with Rahab because of that passage in God's Word that the Lord broke Rahab asunder. I haven't studied it a whole lot.
Yeah, Rahab doesn't sound like Mars, but who knows?
No.
It certainly exhibits the same characteristics.
Yeah, and it does. And if nothing else, we can, if that something happened, if Mars at one point, and I think there is enough evidence to show that there was water on Mars and oceans and tributaries and other things, and of course, there are poles on Mars. At some point, something happened to its atmosphere. Would you agree that changed everything physically on the surface?
Oh yeah. In fact, I used to have on my show images page a link to the poles of Mars showing it's probably carbon dioxide ice, but showing the swirl patterns around both the North and South Pole, and the same thing on Venus and other planets, and even our moon exhibits part of it, where the poles had spin on the surface of the planet when it was more molten at the poles. And that does, correspond with our idea that gravity itself is a function of spin.
Right.
Inside the planet and, of course, outside.
Well, centrifugally, you would think that, just like going to the amusement park and the floor drops out of you, you're spinning so fast you stick to the wall. I mean, there is that spinning would cause that kind of force.
Well, a little bit more than that, because if the analogy of the teacup, you stir it with a spoon, but you can only stir it so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you could spin it at 20,000 RPM, and instead of being thin tea, it was thick oil, like a Japanese scientist did do several decades ago, what will happen is that the waves coming out of the center of that cup you're stirring at that speed will hit the edge of the cup and will bounce back toward. In fact, we'll do it inside of I think he did inside of a large tank, so that there was no wall to hit. It was just the other oil molecules, and he spun it so fast, a disc, that the oil was thrown out into the volume of the oil, and the volume of the oil became like a hard wall to it, like when your hand hits the water when you're in a motorboat. It's hard, and It reflects back, and so this reflected spinning fluid reflects back in toward the rod that's down there spinning that disc, and joins in with the rod and starts to curl back and join the spin out, and forms, in essence, two fat donuts, which are north and south poles of a planet. And using this, he was able to create artificial planets as spherical globs spinning in the oil that exhibited gravity toward themselves simply because of the waves coming in, meeting the waves coming back, and they formed a null zone at some layer, at some shell. And that's what creates the illusion of gravity. It's not a one-way force; it's two-way.
Right. It is amazing. That amazes me. I'm picturing it in my mind to see this, and I guess because of and we see that same quality, which would be in our planet in molten rock and also in crude oil. Those things that are thicker than water are thicker than some other substances, and we see molten rock, which has more density to it. And it's like you said, it's moving at a certain rate as the planet rotates, and as the planet revolves, and as with the magnetics and everything going on. And then we're looking at adding in the Schumann's resonance to that. When you add the magnetosphere problems going on in the magnetosphere, and solar energy coming through, and electrically, we've got so many lightning strikes that are supercharging so many different. I would guess supercharging so many elements in the atmosphere. We're looking at how much hotter is lightning than the sun. How many times hotter is a bolt of lightning than sun? Kelvin, I guess.
Well, I don't know because they vary, but the ones that have a pinky glow around them are usually extremely hot and many, many times greater than the surface of the sun. Probably measured in thousands.
So every time that this connection is made between the negative and the positive, and that leader, that stairway or that leader, and there's a charge there, there is a release of energy either up or down, right?
Well, the leader goes up and down many times a second, back and forth,
right.
And this alternating current does produce oscillation in the atoms, which release energy in the form of radiation, visual and otherwise. That's why you get static in your radios when a lightning bolt happens.
Right.
It's producing radiation.
Well, as we take water and as we take oil out of the surface of the earth, we take the oil, and we take rock out of the earth to build and put weight up on top of the surface that usually would be the surface would be made of, and you're leaving, I would say, hollow pockets of where oil was.
I understand these hollow pockets are probably the size of a sand grain. Most of these things penetrate very, like porous sand formations.
Mm-hmm.
And when the oil comes out under pressure, these little open holes are all connected. But it's not one like cavern of empty space. It's a bunch of little caverns, if you wish, the size of a fat grain of sand.
But if you're
all interconnected,
if you're dragging the oil out in Saudi Arabia, that's where you're majorly pumping. It just seems to me like there would be more hollow cavities around Saudi Arabia than there would be, say, around North Dakota.
Well, again, it depends on the geology of the area.
Right.
That's an interesting point, actually, about the oil there in Saudi Arabia and in the Middle East in total. The Bible does say that the blessing to the tribe of Asher, the toe of Asher, would be oil, dipped his toe in oil. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the map of Asher, I have the map in there on the third row, on the right-hand side, the 12 tribes when they were in Canaan.
Right.
And the toe of Asher reaches into the Megiddo Plain, where the Battle of Armageddon will be fought, mm-hmm. probably over oil. And the toe of it is near Haifa. And what I've been looking at is the oil companies that are been given like 70 and 80,000, 90,000 acre leases to drill for oil around Mount Carmel.
Mm-hmm.
And the Zion Corporation out of Dallas, a Christian organization, have drilled probably 6 test wells in the area looking for the deep oil. And I talked to a rabbi years ago who I was studying with, a physicist rabbi, teaching rabbi, and he said that underneath Israel, they know there is a huge reservoir, bigger than all the other reservoirs that the Arab nations have, and possibly the biggest one in the entire planet, but it's down about 25,000 feet. And the deepest most of them gone is 3 miles. Now, he said it's down so deep that we're going to have to use special technology to go down and get it, but it will definitely blow the oil up because of the pressure of it being so low. It will come up with very minimal effort. He said the reason we haven't developed this yet is because the Arab nations surrounding us said that we would be stealing from their oil wells because they're connected to that deep reservoir, and we would be taking the oil that they normally have. And of course the Israeli answer was, well, wait a minute. that formation is under pressure and it's pushing it uphill into the areas where you're drilling. And so, in essence, you are taking the oil that's underneath Israel. So it's our oil.
Right.
And so the Arabs have said, well, if you go for that oil, it will be a declaration of war because you'll be hitting our economy. And to that end, I noticed that not only was the Zion Corporation doing it, but there's on the Sea of Galilee to the east of it there, northeast, there is another license on that same line there on my show images page. I show the Elijah number 3 license near Haifa and the Megiddo Jezreel license, the Jordan Valley license. They're all digging for oil there, but the one that is most unusual is by the AFEK, Israel Oil and Gas Corporation, AFEK, and that's the middle image. If you look at that, you'll see where they're drilling down to get the oil. Testing it just on the eastern shore of the Sea of Galilee. And it's called the Bashan Volcanics, which was because it's located where the tribe of the king of Bashan, the tribe of giants, they lived in that area a long time ago. And it was Og that owned that that land. One of the things I found interesting was that this AFEK oil was not so much like a Christian oil exploration company at all. It was a function that is a corporation that has investors like Rothschild.
Oh, wow.
The former vice president under Bush. What was his name? I forget it.
H.W.
No. Well,
George.
No, the vice president had a heart attack.
Oh.
The old guy.
I'm trying.
Cheney.
Yeah.
All right, he's a major shareholder. Rothschild's a major shareholder.
Yeah.
And so when I looked up this AFEK organization, they're drilling in what I think is the wrong place for the major structure. But when people like Cheney and Rothschild start funding, digging for oil in that area, you know that there must be some reason for it.
Right.
And that will probably lead to the war over oil in the Middle East, because with the discovery of oil on its own property, even though it might be deep, Israel will suddenly be able to supply oil to the world.
Especially when we see that the beautiful land or the glorious land covered in pitch. According, there's scripture that talks about that too. And pitch being, I guess, representative pretty much of crude oil, right?
Yeah.
So of course, and right now I think there's, as we look at it that way, and my brother Carl Moorman and I about a year ago we did a couple broadcasts about this. The petrodollar and how the economy of the world is, how the value of the dollar is on black gold instead of precious metal, yellow gold, as it always had. We're on a different gold standard. We're on the black gold standard now. So, and politically, political reasons why Saudi Arabia deals in petrodollars, right? So, for protection from the United States against its adversaries, and then the other Arab nations in the Arab League followed suit to trade in U.S. dollars too. As we see oil changing, like you said, then we're going to see the economy changing with it also. Wouldn't you say? I mean, aren't we looking at a one world currency when we're talking about a petrodollar?
Oh, yeah. And let's look at it. Gold, silver, and printed money, and whether it be American or Euro dollars or Chinese things, whatever, they're going to be useless, because we're going to go to this one world economy based on something that's a universal standard here, and that will be energy. And the basis of that at this point will be petro energy.
Right. And
that's why the richest 1% of the world are investing in that Golan Heights function. And they may be part of Zion, may have bought into that, I'm not sure. But when you get Dick Cheney and Michael Steinhardt, Jacob Rothschild, Rupert Murdoch putting major investments in that, it's a word to the wise. Your gold and your silver and your paper money are going to be worthless. You'll throw them in the street, because the thing that will have value is energy stocks. And if you own shares of these companies that have the oil, then you will have asset value that will be rated in the New World petro or energy dollar. I mean, they may even count in wind farms and nuclear